the base motel.
Something is wrong out there, and I have to know what.
Well, I want to see you. Mother, she just goes a little mad sometimes. God, Mother! Psycho, rated R. Starts Friday.
So this is controversial for several reasons, most notably because you're remaking one of the greatest horror movies of all time, one of the greatest movies of all time, period, from one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, Alfred Hitchcock. And it basically has the same premise. You have an embezzler arriving at an old motel run by a mysterious man named Norman Bates, and chaos ensues afterwards. But this is Gus Van Sant, who had just done Good Will Hunting the year before, which won Robin Williams an Academy Award. So he was kind of given a key to a free pass to pretty much do whatever he wanted to do. And his idea for this was supposed to be a shot-for-shot retelling of the original film that most remakes, often copying Hitchcock's camera movements and editing, including the original script, which is pretty much carried over from here, and the same score by Bernard Herrmann is used, as well as some new songs, new arrangements by Danny Elfman and Steve Bartek. But then they decide to add in things that make you have to look at this and go, if you're going to do a shot-for-shot remake, you don't add anything new to this. Like, they introduce the idea of accounts for advances in technology since the original film, and to make the content more explicit. And the film's murder sequences are also intercut with surreal images, and it's just kind of like, what are you guys doing? It's just like, it just takes a movie that just seems like a bad idea at first, but you're going along with it because the talent that they have there could carry it through, and it's just as bad as you think it's going to be, and even worse at times. It's just like, don't say you're going to do a shot-for-shot remake if you're going to add in new shots that have nothing to do with what happened in the original film, and you want to add them just because it's part of modern technology, that modern filmmaking nowadays. It's like, just don't do that. I mean, it's a film that is just so unnecessary. It's one of the most unnecessary remakes of all time, and it just feels unnecessary on so many levels. Like, I'll give the movie credit, though. It's not overall terrible. There are a few elements that I didn't think were too bad. Like, I thought some of the acting overall was pretty good. I mean, I thought Vince Vaughn did a pretty good job as Norman Bates. I thought Anne Hesh was pretty good playing the character played by Janet Leigh, Marion Crane. I thought Julianne Moore was very good here. Viggo Mortensen is okay. William H. Macy usually will turn in a good performance, but it doesn't really matter when you have a film that has really no purpose for existing, except it just needs to be made for a new generation. And the original film has held up so much better than most people would give it credit for, and it has shown in the years since this film's been released. This film has been largely forgotten, and nobody has really gone back and looked at it and said, well, it was a film that was just too ahead of its time. No, everybody who saw this movie back then can tell you nowadays that this movie sucked. This remake was not that good. And even despite the elements that I thought were okay, the film was just like, it just didn't have no intentions on existing whatsoever. And not surprisingly, it crashed and burned at the box office hard. And also kind of killed Gus Van Sant's directorial career for a little bit. But he eventually found his way back, though. It wasn't like a big killer of his career. He returned a couple of years later with Finding Forrester. And then he did Milk a couple of years later, which Sean Penn got a lot of praise for. So it wasn't a complete loss of his career overall, but it was considered a major blot on what had been a pretty solid directorial career up to that point. I mean, this is a guy that gave us Drugstore Cowboy, My Own Private Idaho. Hell, I'd rather watch Even Cowgirls Get the Blues again than watch this movie again. That's how bad this movie is. Just a terrible movie, just a waste of time. It's a mess. It's a mess of a movie on so many levels. So that is Psycho. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Little Voice.
Little Voice.
That's the only trailer I can really find. It's an international trailer, so sorry that wasn't a whole lot of footage there. But the basic story here is that you have a shy, reclusive lady who's convinced by an invisible entity to sing. Suddenly, she finds herself noticed by a sleazy talent agent and her talent being showcased on stage. She also meets a kind but nervous man who becomes her best friend. You have Brenda Blethyn, Jane Horrocks, Michael Caine, Ewan McGregor, which is very funny because this movie is very similar to another movie Michael Caine was in called Educating Rita. And this director has made some has not made a ton of great films. His last film he made was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which was a pretty good movie. But this film, I really don't know too much about it. It's got some good reviews to it, and Brenda Blethyn was nominated for an Academy Award for this. So there has to be some good, so I'm assuming there's some good things about it. Early film role for Ewan McGregor before he broke out big the year later with Star Wars: The Phantom Menace and Jane Horrocks. Most people know her from Absolutely Fabulous and also Chicken Run. Most notably, I know her from Chicken Run, but she's also in Absolutely Fabulous. She plays the title character of Little Boy, so she's really good from the little bit of the trailer that I've seen there. I'm about to say the movie because I haven't seen the film. So, but it looks like it could be a good movie. I don't see anything that looks too bad about it whatsoever. So maybe it's got a chance to be good. So that's Little Voice. So on to the next movie, and that is Shattered Image.
It goes quickly also.
Another one that did not have a whole lot of footage on there. When I looked up Shattered Image on YouTube, a Bo Derek USA 1994 movie came up, and I couldn't find anything until I typed in Shattered Image and William Baldwin, and there's a little bit of the trailer there. But you have a confusing reality surface in this paranoia film dealing with the fragile nature of a young woman played by Anne Parilla from Innocent Blood and La Femme Nikita, who's recovering from rape and an apparent attempted suicide. In one reality, she's a killer, destroyer of men. In another, she is the new wife of a Jamaican honeymoon with a new husband played by William Baldwin, who's trying to help her recover. And as she switches between realities through her dreams, she seeks to figure out who the other Jessie is and why she is seeing her. As the dramatic different realities start to merge, causing grave implications, questions start to arise. Is someone trying to kill Jessie? Can Jessie trust her new husband, Brian? And more importantly, who is the real Jessie? So, from the looks of it, it kind of reminds me somewhat of a little bit of I Know Who Killed Me, that terrible Lindsay Lohan movie. From the little bit that I saw from this trailer here, in this premise, we have two different personalities in here. I think that's what they're getting the idea of. Most of these, you can tell the inspiration's coming from a lot of David Lynch films. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive. But, I don't know. I mean, it's nice to see Anne Parilla in another movie again. I thought after Innocent Blood and La Femme Nikita, her career kind of dropped off a little bit. But at least I know that she's been doing some other films. I don't know, could be decent, but I don't really know anything about it because I have not seen the film, so I can't really comment on it too much. So that is Shattered Image. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is High Life.
Caitlin Cartledge, Charles Sterling, Daryl Hannah, Moira Kelly, Peter Rieger, Campbell Scott, and Eric Stoltz. I mean, I'm an actor. I live for a living. You know, sort of. How much money have you made acting? That's not funny. High Life. Ollie.
So you have this guy named Jimmy who's got a gambling den and uses a lie to get his girlfriend Susan to help him find $900. Susan uses another lie to get her bartender brother Ray to help, but Ray hates Jimmy. Ray wanders around the local bars collecting money. Jimmy's looking for Ray and Susan looking for Jimmy. And if the wrong people meet, the lies will unravel. And you have a cast that includes Ray as Campbell Scott, you have Daryl Hannah as Maggie, Maura Kelly as Susan, Eric Stoltz as Jimmy, Peter Rieger, Charles Durning. Pretty much all I know about this movie, but it has a good review, so maybe it is something that is actually maybe worth it, but I wouldn't know for certain because I've never seen the film, so I mean, it could be good. That's pretty much all I can say about that one. That's High Life.
On December 11th, we have the planet, they have the technology that makes us partners. The future of the galaxy. We're participating in the outright theft of a world and the survival of a race. Every living thing in this system will be dead or dying. Depend on an act. There will be no cover-up of rebellion. Lock and load. Star Trek Insurrection. Rated PG. Join the rebellion. December 11th.
So the third film in the Star Trek series featuring the Next Generation team, you basically have the crew of the Enterprise rebel against Starfleet after they discover a conspiracy with a species known as the Sona to steal the peaceful Baku's planet from its rejuvenating properties. And the characters that, in addition to the cast from the show, we also have F. Murray Abraham and Donna Murphy joining the cast. This was a film that was very much one of those films that was dealing with a lot of production problems behind the scenes. They actually rewrote the script several times, and they added in a subplot to have a romantic interest for Picard in this, and it was actually further revised for the ending after test screenings came out. And, after First Contact was such a big hit, you'd think Paramount would let Jonathan Frakes, who directed this movie, just like he did with First Contact, do whatever he wants when he came to direct the next movie, and they didn't. And because of that, this falls onto an absurdly low level that even The Final Frontier couldn't handle. You heard me right, this is indeed the worst Star Trek movie. It is surprisingly even worse than The Final Frontier, and that's saying a lot because Final Frontier was a bad movie, but this just is a waste on so many levels. So where do you even begin with this film? Let's start off with the story. The crew of the Enterprise learn of the Federation's plot against the inhabitants of a unique planet, and Captain Picard begins an open rebellion. And that's it. That's all that happens. First of all, they make it seem like this is a big deal and has never happened before in any other Star Trek adventure, but there have been episodes of The Next Generation where they've had the same plot and do it at the same time, trying to bring in elements from the stories of going on in Deep Space Nine, which at the time was in its last season, and they even bring in the Dominion storyline. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a plot concept in Deep Space Nine where you have a conflict between the forces of the Dominion, the Cardassian Union, and later the Breen Confederacy against the Alpha Quadrant Alliance of the United Federation of Planets, Klingon Empire, and later the Romulan Star Empire. And at the time this movie was coming out, the Dominion was not only beating the Federation, but they were downright destroying them with 800 billion people's lives on the line. Insurrection only brings up the Dominion War twice, and that's it. So what's the point of even mentioning it in this film if you're not even going to have a purpose for it? It also doesn't help that you're rooting for the bad guys' plan of moving 600 people, and that's the only thing about the bad guys you can say that's good, and we'll delve into that in just a little bit, but even then, you don't even want the Baku to even be saved, because, my God, these people are so bland and forgettable. This planet is like a precursor to ASMR. Like, everybody talks in this monotone voice, and nobody raises their voices, nobody does anything. There's not one single person on this planet you give a crap about, especially Donna Murphy's character. This is a poorly written character. She's just there to be a love interest for Picard. There's no chemistry between her and Stewart at all. And they make the Baku try to seem like the Amish for the Star Trek universe because they don't use technology, even though throughout the film they have a preference of technology that does not need electricity. So that's hypocrisy at its finest. And what's even worse about this movie is that it dumbs down its audience so much. Like Picard, who came off as this badass in First Contact, this badass hero, has been basically lowered down to where he was in Generations. It's like they forced him and Murphy to be kind of the Edward and Bella of the Star Trek universe. And actually, I didn't even know. In fact, you can make an argument that Stephanie Meyer may have had an uncredited screenwriting credit on here before she wrote Twilight, because it's that bad of a relationship in this. And to think that the thinking of this movie's dumbing the science down for its audience, it doesn't get more obvious in a scene where Murphy's character is able to slow down time, and Picard's basically asking her, how are you doing this? And she goes, no more questions. I'm sorry, what? You don't get a free pass by just saying no more questions. This is Star Trek, damn it. Give me some goddamn answers to why or how she's able to do this, because it's never explained whatsoever. This woman has no charisma or chemistry whatsoever. She is a waste in this movie. And speaking of people being wasted, F. Murray Abraham, my God. You have an Academy Award-winning actor in your movie as a bad guy. Use him. But no. He's only in this movie to make screams like a goddamn baby elephant and just to be bitter and evil for no reason. They waste Abraham in this movie. He's supposed to be the bad guy, and he does nothing of noteworthy but scream like he's trying to pass a kidney stone. That's how bad it is. Like, this is without a doubt the worst Star Trek movie. There's nothing about this movie that's worth it. There's nothing exciting. There's nothing engaging. There's nothing creative. There's nothing funny, interesting, thrilling. 100% nothing of value whatsoever. It's a waste of time, and it's completely pointless. It's a snorefest of a film, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves for coming off of First Contact, which is probably one of the best Star Trek movies ever, and then to do this. This is just, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable on so many levels. And even though Nemesis was the film that kind of killed the Star Trek series as a film series for a little bit, this film did it first. We'll get to Nemesis eventually, but I'm telling you, it's a much better film than Insurrection is. So yeah, that's Star Trek Insurrection. So let's go ahead and let's keep the bad movie train going along. Here's Michael Keaton as Jack Frost.
Once upon a time, in the town of Medford, there lived a man named Jack Frost.
All musicians really flaky.
Yeah. He had a beautiful wife and a loving son, but his job kept him away from home.
Bet you this.
No harmonicas.
I got that. One of you more. You play that no matter where I am. Don't you hear it?
Then one night, something happened. Something terrible.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I miss it too.
That turned into something wonderful. Please, Dad.
So I'm supposed to believe that you're my dad?
You were the one who played the magic harmonica.
I thought you made that up.
So did I. I think so.
Dad's the snowman, honey. Charlie's run away with the snowman. Really?
What's the snowman look like? 3 bowls, 2 stick-ons?
Hey, that's my branch!
Stocky. Well built.
Shredding! Oh! Hey, I slimmed down. Whoa!
Thanks for giving me a second chance to be your dad.
Warner Brothers is proud to present Michael Keaton
I'm a frozen freak of nature.
and Kelly Preston
Freeze,
He's obviously not talking to me.
in the story of a man who got a second chance to be the world's coolest dad,
As long as you hold someone in your heart, you can never lose them.
Jack Frost.
Are you really proud of this, Warner Brothers? No, really. You're really proud of this. Jack Frost. I'll tell you this much. I'd rather have the 1997 horror film than this movie because, man, basically you saw the plot there. Michael Keaton plays the title character who's a father and musician killed in a car accident, only to be brought back to life in the form of a snowman via a magical harmonica. And, the results speak for themselves. This is a garbage movie that has a really bad CG effect that I remember getting the beanbag from the Warner Brothers Studio store back when we had it at the Minnova Mall. And, I don't know, I thought, at the time, I thought it looked pretty good. I mean, but then again, I was only 9 years old when this movie came out, so I didn't know any better. I didn't see it in theaters, but when I finally got to see it, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is not a good movie. This is a bad movie. This is a film that could have something to work with, but it just doesn't have anything to it. You don't really like Michael Keaton's character as a whole in here. It's a shame because Michael Keaton's an awesome actor. I mean, he can usually save any movie, but this is just pushing it, and it's just so schmaltzy. It's so gimmicky. It's a predictable storyline that we've seen done over and over again. Nobody in this movie is likable. The visuals look terrible. The cheap attempts at comedy are just god-awful. Like, it's just a bad movie. It's a film that just really does not work whatsoever. And, like, I think Roger Ebert kind of said it best. Jim Henson and Industrial Light and Magic could have maybe made this character a lot more likable if he looked like a real character instead of a CG cluster, but no, it's one of the worst creations in special effects you'll ever see, and it's a bad movie on so many levels. It's a terrible film, and you expect a whole lot better from these people that are involved in here, but then again, this is directed by the same guy that gave us Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd, so then again, Dumb and Dumber had better moments than this movie does, so at least this is a step up. That's a step up for him. This is just a terrible film. Like, I really hate this movie. It's one of the worst things that Michael Keaton has ever done, and that's saying a whole lot, considering that Michael Keaton barely does a lot of bad movies, and even when he does, he's usually the best thing about it, and technically, maybe he kind of is in this, but it's not worth it to watch the film. Skip this film completely. Avoid it like the plague. So let's go ahead and get into some good movies for once. Let's go to Sam Raimi's new film, A Simple Plan.
Just like we found lost treasure. We're like Robin Hood. You want to keep it?
Sometimes good people do evil things.
Part of that is more money.
Like there's 2 sides now.
My brother.
Bill Paxton.
You gotta make us look like there's an accident.
Billy Bob Thornton.
What do I get?
Bridget Fonda.
He's gonna shoot you both.
From the New York Times best-selling novel. A Simple Plan.
I wish somebody else had found that money.
Based off of a novel of the same name from 1993, you have Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, and Bridget Fonda, and it's set in rural Minnesota, and it follows these brothers, Paxton and Thornton, who, along with their friend Lou, played by Brent Briscoe, discover a crashed plane containing $4.4 million in cash, and the 3 men and Hank's wife, Sarah, goes to great lengths to keep the money a secret, but begin to doubt each other's trust, resulting in lies, deceit, and murder. And like I said, this is directed by Sam Raimi, although you could not really tell a whole lot from this particular trailer or the TV spots that this is a Sam Raimi film. And it's interesting because this was kind of at a point where Sam Raimi he was kind of stepping away from what we've known him for, like the Evil Dead movies. He did stuff like Quick and the Dead, and then he kind of went to these more generic type of films for Sam Raimi, like this, and then he followed this up with For the Love of the Game, until he eventually came back with Spider-Man, and we kind of got to see the old Sam Raimi again. But this is not a bad movie. It's a really good mystery thriller. Billy Bob Thornton, Bill Paxton, and Bridget Fonda work off each other very well here. It's cool to see Sam Raimi do something outside of his normal stick, like something that we're used to. It's a very good film, and it features a lot of good performances, a great script by Scott B. Smith, the writer of the book, and it's just a really well-made film. It has so many different elements to it that just make it so unique and so different. It's a film that really was one of the more unique films that Raimi has ever done. And that's saying a lot, because Sam Raimi has done a lot of very unique and very intriguing films. And this is a very good film that shows him that he can do a regular film outside of his normal directing abilities. And it shows him here, because there's not a whole lot of Sam Raimi's usual stuff that we see in his movies in this particular film. I mean, it's a very interesting film to check out. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. A Simple Plan, definitely worth it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, the Best Picture winner of 1998, I guess. We'll get into that in just a second. This is Shakespeare in Love.
The nation's top critics have a favorite film.
What's it called?
Shakespeare in Love.
Good title.
Winner of the Golden Globe Award for Best Picture, and now nominated for 13 Academy Awards, more than any other movie, including Best Actress Gwyneth Paltrow, Best Supporting Actor Jeffrey Rush, Best Supporting Actress Judi Dench, Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture of the Year. Shakespeare in Love, rated R, now playing everywhere.
So Shakespeare in Love depicts a fictional love affair involving playwright William Shakespeare, played by Joseph Fiennes, and Viola de Lesseps, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, while Shakespeare was writing Romeo and Juliet. Several characters are based on historical figures, and many of the characters' lines and plot devices allude to Shakespeare plays, including a cast that has Jeffrey Rush, Colin Firth, Ben Affleck, and Judi Dench. And it was nominated for 13 Oscars, as you saw in the commercial there, and it won 7 Oscars, including Best Actress Gwyneth Paltrow, Best Supporting Actress Judi Dench, Best Screenplay, Best Original Music Score, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Picture of the Year. And yeah, needless to say, I'm one of those people that thinks that this movie should not have won Best Picture. I mean, I'm sorry. Saving Private Ryan should have been the Best Picture winner of 1998. This is kind of the same thing that I had with I kind of feel the same way about this movie that I do with The English Patient. I don't hate this movie, but it's not the best movie of the year. I'm sorry. It's just not. Like I said, Saving Private Ryan was a much better film that was nominated this year and barely got anything. It won Best Director for Steven Spielberg again, but at the same time, like, it should have been another Best Picture winner. I'm trying to look right here to see if I can find the other films that were nominated here. Like, Elizabeth probably would have been a good winner too. I like this movie a lot, but I like Elizabeth a lot better than Shakespeare in Love. But then again, the list of see here, now that I look at it more and more, it wasn't a good year for Best Picture. I think, like I said, Saving Private Ryan, I think, was the best out of these ones. I think it should have won Best Picture, but Shakespeare in Love, like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's a good film. Not a great film. I think what keeps it together is the cast. Gwyneth Paltrow's very good in here. You can see why she won the Academy Award. You can see why Judi Dench won an Oscar. You can see why this cast works so well. Joseph Fiennes, Jeffrey Rush, Colin Firth, Ben Affleck. It's a very good cast. A very good script, co-written by Tom Stoppard. Some great visuals all around. A great period piece film. It is a good movie. But I think Saving Private Ryan is the better film. I think that film did more, took more chances, and felt like more of a film that should be what we think of when we think of a Best Picture winner. We shouldn't keep this film just feels like the typical Best Picture Oscar cliche film. Like, this feels like Green Book. This feels like The King's Speech. This feels like a film that is not really the Best Picture of the year, but we're gonna say it's the Best Picture of the year, while all these other films that should have won Best Picture ends up winning it. It's just kind of I have a lot of problems with the Academy Awards. We can delve into this into another topic altogether, but just like things like movies like this winning Best Picture, some of the things that really irks me about the Oscars and why it's not as fun as it used to be. Like, it's more of a job to watch the Academy Awards now than it is a privilege to watch it. And this is one of those examples of a year where it's a job to watch it, because you have to watch and see this film that it's a good film, but a much better film in Saving Private Ryan should have been the Best Picture winner. It just should have been, like, plain and simple. But I like this movie fine. I don't love it. I don't think it's as good as enough to be the best picture. I put it on the same category as The English Patient, a film that it's good, but it's not the best picture of the year. No matter what they say there, I don't think it's the best picture of the year, and I'm part of a very small group that probably thinks that. But yeah, that's Shakespeare in Love. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Wes Anderson's Rushmore.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
Rushmore Academy's wealthiest alumnus has just met the woman of his dreams. I'm in love with her. There's only one problem.
I was in love with her first.
This February, the battle begins.
Now, you and Sony deserve each other. You're both little children. Who's going to try and have that tree over there following you? War does funny things to men.
Rushmore, rated R, opens February 5th in select cities.
So this is Wes Anderson's second film as a director after Bottle Rocket. You have the story of a teenager named Max, played by Jason Schwartzman in his film debut, and his friendship with this rich industrialist, played by Bill Murray, and their shared affection for elementary school teacher Rosemary Cross, played by Olivia Williams. This is a film that's written by Anderson as well as Owen Wilson, and was notably known for not only launching the start of Jason Schwartzman's career, but also kind of establishing Bill Murray's second career. Like, after all these years of being a leading man in comedies and dramas, this is mostly comedic roles, but this is the first film that kind of establishes Murray's second career as this independent cinema actor. Like, we'd see him in a lot more of Wes Anderson movies. Of course, he'd become prevalent in stuff like Lost in Translation, Broken Flowers, and it was really the right move for him to go to after a couple of very bad flops, like The Man Who Knew Too Little and Larger Than Life. And it's another winner for Wes Anderson. I've never seen a bad Wes Anderson movie. I've tried to look for one. I've never seen one that I've really hated, and this is another one that I thought was really, really good. This is a really solid film. Shows a lot of what makes Wes Anderson so great as a director, and it features a great cast: Brian Cox, Seymour Cassell, Mason Gamble, just a phenomenal cast in here. Connie Nielsen, Luke Wilson, Alexis Bledel, one of her early film roles, is in this film. It's a good movie. It's a really solid film, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot. Like I said, I don't really hate a lot of Wes Anderson movies. In fact, there's one that I've never really said I could honestly say I hate. I like a lot of Wes Anderson's movies. This is another one that I really like of his. It's a well-done film, really good film. Can't recommend it enough. Rushmore.
Just call me Joe.
Joe? Just call me Joe? Sure. You were one of those 22-year-old girls with no last name. Hi, I'm Kimberly. Hi, I'm Janet.
She's beautiful.
Don't they know you're supposed to have a last name?
What? She's a pill.
You are such a liar.
In life, they know they can't stand each other.
You're taking all the caviar? That caviar is a garnish.
Respect each other.
Joe Fox. F-O-X. F-O-X.
Or like each other.
May I ask who you are?
No.
But what they don't know
Hi.
is that online, they're in love with each other.
I don't know his name or what he does.
This woman is the most adorable creature I've ever been in contact with.
Warner Brothers presents
Do you think we should meet?
a modern-day romance.
Meat.
Why am I compelled to even meet her? She could be a real dog.
Tom Hanks,
See you later. Don't worry about a thing.
Meg Ryan, from the director of Sleepless in Seattle.
What are you girls talking about?
Cyber sex.
You've Got Mail.
I would really appreciate it if you would just go away.
I brought you flowers.
Oh?
Like I said, this is the reunion for Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. This is actually the third time they paired up. The first film they did, of course, was Joe vs. the Volcano, and then they did Sleepless in Seattle, and their movies together have been really good. Joe vs. the Volcano is a very underrated comedy directed by John Patrick Shanley. Sleepless in Seattle, a good, fun romantic comedy with Nora Ephron directing this, and You've Got Mail is just as good as Sleepless in Seattle. I would probably say it's definitely it's a little bit better, actually, that I think about it. You have the story here of two people who are in an online romance who are unaware that they're actually business rivals, and it marks the third, like I said, it marks the third pairing of Hanks and Ryan. I mean, the description off Wikipedia here, but basically, obviously the title takes its name from the greeting AOL users get when they get new emails. You know, you've got mail. And it's funny because this was before Warner Brothers was bought out by America Online. Time Warner was actually bought out by America Online. You would see on the bottom of the Warner Brothers logo, an AOL Time Warner Company for a little bit there, so it's kind of amusing that their name is attached to this. But but their male thing is on there. But yeah, like I said before, it's a really good movie. I put it on the same length as something like Sleepless in Seattle. There are times when it actually does get a little bit better. It's a little bit better than Sleepless in Seattle, but everything that makes Sleepless in Seattle kind of fun, it's definitely in here. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan just have that great chemistry that they always have together. And I think this was the last time they appeared together in a movie. I could be wrong on that, but this might have been the last time. But you also have a really good cast overall. You see Dave Chappelle there in the trailer, as well as Greg Kinnear. Steve Zahn is also in here. Parker Posey, Gene Stapleton. I thought I saw Donald Logue there for a minute, but I don't see his name in the credits. But Dabney Coleman's also in the film. Heather Burns, Sarah Ramirez from Grey's Anatomy, Rico Olivesworth from 24 is also in the film. It's got a good cast overall. It's actually based off... This movie's actually a remake of a film called The Shop Around the Corner, which was in and of itself was adapted from a Hungarian play in 1937 called Parfumé, which has actually been adapted several times. There was also another version called In the Good Old Summertime. So this is basically a modern version of that. And this was still when the internet was relatively new. I mean, this is still well before the internet became what it has become 25 years later. I mean, a lot of people still were they still didn't have a good idea of what the internet was, and what the internet overall was. Around this time, they were slowly but surely starting to get around to it. Amazon was very big at the time. You know, Yahoo, Ask Jeeves was a big thing that's really doesn't exist anymore. This was before the days of Google. Like, it's very interesting to see what the world was like before it eventually became, the computer world became eventually what it has become nowadays. And it's very interesting to see this. This is the first real comedy that takes, first real romantic comedy that centers around the world of the internet as a whole. And I thought they did a pretty good job with it. It's mostly because of what Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan bring to the table. They're great actors. They work off each other so well. Their chemistry is very good, and it really does work very well here. It's an amazingly fun film. It's a really good film overall. I really enjoyed it a lot. I like the other movies that these two have been in, and this one's a great film as well. Definitely check this one out if you really liked what you saw with Sleepless in Seattle and Joe vs. the Volcano. You'll definitely really get a kick out of this movie. So that's You've Got Mail. Now let's get to probably easily the best movie that came out this week, and that is, of course, The Prince of Egypt.
In a world of power and mystery, a child is discovered by a queen.
Come, Ramesses. We will show Pharaoh your new baby brother. Moses.
And raised in the family of a mighty dynasty.
Second ball! Second place! Not for long!
They were the sons of a king. One was born to rule. I bear the weight of my father's crown. The other was chosen to lead.
You are not a prince of Egypt.
What did you say?
Ask the man that you call father.
Can't stay here any longer. Moses!
No! All I've ever known to be true is a lie.
Let go of your contempt for life before it destroys everything you hold dear. I will not be the weak link. Soldiers! They're coming! There shall be a great cry in all of Egypt, such as never has been or ever will be again. Ramesses, let my people go!
Discover the mystery. Experience the majesty. Believe in miracles. Feel the power of the greatest adventure of all time. The Prince of Egypt.
So this is DreamWorks' second overall animated film. The first one, of course, being Ants. And really, this is a film that basically kind of showed that DreamWorks was a force to be reckoned with fairly early on. Of course, this is the story about how Moses became a prince of Egypt to a prophet of the Lord, chosen by God to carry out his ultimate destiny to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt. A story we've seen done over and over again, whether you've seen it in the Ten Commandments or whether you've seen it in other movies of similar fashion. My first exposure to this particular story was, of all things, the Rugrats Passover episode. There was a Passover special they did back kind of in between the original run of the Rugrats and when they revived it again, where they had Grandpa Boris telling the story about how, telling this story with the Rugrats characters and the roles of these characters. You got Tommy as Moses and Angelica as Ramesses, pretty much in that version. And that was the first time I realized that the Pickles were actually half Jewish. That's something that a lot of people probably don't even remember until they realize that episode that came around. And I think by this time this movie came out, they also did the Hanukkah special too. So maybe people did know by then. But like I said before, this was the film that really cemented DreamWorks as a force to be reckoned with. This is an idea that Jeffrey Katzenberg had been wanting to do for a long period of time when he was working at Disney. And when he finally left Disney in '94 to co-fund DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg, they decided to make this movie, and they hired a bunch of animators from both Disney and the then Amblimation, who later merged over to DreamWorks. And they basically put together a movie like this, and really, it really is a force to be reckoned with. This is probably one of the most underrated animated films you will probably ever see. This is an incredible movie that really is probably the best version of the story they could ever do. I mean, this is a story that has been done so many times. Sometimes good with the Ten Commandments, and then sometimes really bad with Exodus, Gods, and Kings. Like, I don't care if Ridley Scott is involved in that. I don't care if it has Joel Edgerton and Christian Bale. That movie was a mess on so many levels. But this is the best version of the story you could possibly tell. And it's a great movie, man. Like, everybody in the voice cast, this is a big voice cast, and everybody fits these roles so incredibly well. Val Kilmer and Ray Fiennes as Moses and Ramesses, they're terrific in this. You've got Michelle Pfeiffer, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Goldblum, Danny Glover, Patrick Stewart, Helen Mirren, Steve Martin, Martin Short, some great music by Stephen Schwartz. I mean, the soundtrack alone is worth the price of admission alone. You get to hear two of the greatest voices of all time, Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey singing "When You Believe," which actually went on to win the Best Original Song Oscar, and it was actually the first time an animated film outside of Disney and Pixar had won that Oscar, as well as the first DreamWorks animated film to receive 2 nominations and winning one. Of course, they would later find success with Shrek and Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, but it was a film that, like I said, showed that DreamWorks was ready to play with the big boys. It's really convenient that there's a song in this movie called "You're Playing with the Big Boys Now," because that's pretty much what they were doing at this point. They were proving to everybody that, hey, Disney can do what Disney is great and all, but we can make a movie just as good as Disney, if not surpass what Disney had done. And this movie is the prime example of it. I mean, this is a film that still holds up after so many years, blending the traditional animation along with this unique CG animation that they have in here. The water scene at the end of the movie, where of course you have the famous scene where Moses parts the seas and you see the water, that still holds up 25 years later. It's amazing how well this movie has held up after all these years. And it's just, I can't recommend this movie enough. This is such an amazing film. It's one of the greatest animated films of all time, one of the most underrated animated films ever, because, I mean, it was a big hit when it came out in theaters, but it was largely forgotten almost I would say it's largely forgotten almost pretty much immediately after it came out, which is surprising to think about. That I mean, it wasn't until recently, in the last, 4 or 5 years, that it finally got its proper Blu-ray release and eventually a 4K release just this past year. It really has not many flaws. There are a couple little nitpicky things here and there, but overall, I can't recommend this movie enough. This is easily the best movie that came out this weekend, and easily one of the best movies of the year of '98. And like I said, one of the best animated films of all time, one of the most underrated animated films of all time. It's a classic film. It's a film that deserves to be seen every Christmas, every Easter. It's definitely worth a watch. The Prince of Egypt, I highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it already, do see it. You are doing yourself a huge disservice by not checking this movie out. So, that's The Prince of Egypt. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is John Borman's The General.
To confess a few crimes. You know why they sent me here, don't you? Because they help. Yes, because you do. Because they think I know your wiles and your ways. And I do. It was worth my life.
And sadly, The General in this movie does not go for a great low rate you can get online. Go to The General and save some time. Cheap joke right there. But it has Brendan Gleeson in there. This is a story about a Dubliner who pulls off 2 daring robberies but comes into conflict with members of his gang and attracts attention from the police and the IRA, who are dealing with the UVF, ultimately leading to his downfall. And this is a film that also stars John Voight as Inspector Ned Kenny. Adrian Dunbar is also in here. You may recognize him from Heroes. You also have Sean McGinley. I'm trying to see who else is in here. But like I said, this is a film. This is John Boorman. This is from the latter films of John Boorman's career, and John Boorman was kind of in a slump at this kind of point. Like, his films were not the more notable films that he did back in the days. Like, this isn't stuff like, you know, Excalibur or The Emerald Forest or Point Blank or Hope and Glory or Deliverance. Those films, like, he hasn't made a film of that caliber since then. Probably the closest one maybe is The Tailor of Panama, but other than that, though, that's not really a memorable film per se. But neither is this one either. But I don't know, the trailer for it actually looked kind of good. And Brendan Gleeson is a phenomenal actor. I've seen him in so many movies, and really, like, there's nothing more you can say about this guy that hasn't already been said already. Go watch him in The Banshees of Inisherin. I mean, he's fantastic in that movie. He's been in a ton of great films. I don't think I need to tell you how great of an actor he is, but I'm sure he and John Boyd probably elevates this to a really great film. I mean, I've never seen the film before, so I can't really say for certain, but, I mean, it's John Boorman, and it has some good reviews. It's got Brendan Gleeson, it's got John Boyd. I'd have to think something good has to come out of this in some way, shape, or form, so yeah, not much more to say about that one. That is The General.
Friend, they need a doctor. December 25th.
My name is Dr.
Phil, the world will discover. Oh, there you are. That laughter truly is. Sure to be a pound of drum source. The best medicine. Robin Williams.
I want to learn about people. I'm going to help them with their troubles.
That's what I do.
But you're sick at it.
Patch Adams.
Don, you're party at 50?
Based on a true story. Rated PG-13. Starts December 25th.
Excuse me, I had to get that schmaltz out of there. That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry about that. But fitting for a terrible movie, because Patch Adams, wow. Just absolutely wow. I mean, anybody that thought What Dreams May Come was way too pretentious and too sentimental should have seen this movie and really should have given this movie more smack than it actually did. The sad thing is that this movie was bashed badly by critics, and for good reason, and yet it was one of the biggest box office hits that came out at the time. It made over $200 million over a budget of $90 million, and sadly, it was a film that not only kind of derailed Robin Williams' career, but also Tom Shadyac. You gotta remember, Tom Shadyac was on a roll at this point. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, which he launched Jim Carrey into superstardom. He followed that up with The Nutty Professor, which rejuvenated Eddie Murphy's career. And then he followed that up with Liar Liar, which is one of the biggest hits of Jim Carrey's career, and one of the funniest comedies ever made. So 3 great comedies to start off his career, and despite the fact that this was a big hit, this was the film that really kind of dampened his growing star power, because after this, his movies did not... There was a point where his movies were not the biggest hits. He did a couple of movies that... He did one other movie that was a huge hit, and that was Bruce Almighty. But after that, stuff like Dragonfly, Evan Almighty, and then after that, he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, but mostly because of health reasons later on after he did Evan Almighty. But, yeah, Patch Adams is one of those really, really bad movies. A movie that is so terrible. The man himself that the film is based off of has been very critical of the film. Like, saying that it sacrificed much of the message of the film that he was trying to sell to make a film. And he's even told Roger Ebert himself that he hated that movie. And that's how bad it is. And it basically all the problems with the movie is that out of all the aspects of his life and activism, the film portrays him simply as a funny doctor. And, like, it just was not that. It just was pretty much that. Like, and he even said that he doesn't hate Robin Williams. And I think that's pretty obvious to say. I mean, he basically said he's enormously grateful for his wonderful performance of his early life, which has allowed the Gesundheit Institute to continue and expand its work. And Williams himself has actually supported St. Jude Children's Hospital for several years after the film came out. So I'm glad that that Robin Williams and Patch Adams had at least good terms in terms of the fact that Patch Adams didn't really hate him for this. Just the movie itself was just a bad movie altogether. Like he says, it basically doesn't make Patch Adams a unique character whatsoever. It's just Robin Williams doing the Dead Poets Society thing again, doing the Good Morning Vietnam thing again, doing the Awakenings thing again. I mean, those were done in far superior films. And Robin Williams didn't really need to do this to try to be in an Oscar Baitish type role. He already won an Academy Award for Good Will Hunting the year before, and this, this is a film that just really just stinks of sentimentality overload, and like the story overall just is absolutely a disaster. Like there's a character in this movie played by Monica Potter who is a bland character to begin with. She's there to just be a generic love interest, and her biggest thing is that like her biggest fear is that people have been attracted to me for so many years. It's just like, if you have to say that to try to sell it as an emotional moment, you clearly have a really bad script to work off of. And this is written by Steve O'Derrick, who also did the Ace Ventura movies. He did Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, and he also did The Nutty Professor and Nothing to Lose. So he was also a pretty prolific guy back then, who was got kind of screwed over after this, because he didn't make as many notable films, which, although he did Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, he wrote Nutty Professor 2, he wrote Bruce Almighty, he did Kung Pao Into the Fist and Barnyard, but nothing ever reached the levels that he had beforehand after this movie came out. And I think that, and what's worse about that character that I was talking about is that it's based off of a real person, but that person was never a love interest. It wasn't even the same sex as the movies indicate. It was just a guy, and instead they just took that and just made her into a bland love interest, who eventually gets killed off by this mentally challenged patient, who ends up committing suicide in the process. And it's just it's a mess of a movie on so many levels, and the message of what Patch Adams was trying to do and trying to get by is just completely wasted over on a really bad script that just feels like something out of the Schlock Factory. And it's a mess of a film. It's a really bad movie. And everybody looks at this movie and goes, oh, you gotta respect the dead for this. I mean, Robin Williams is Robin Williams. I mean, Robin Williams can't make a bad movie. Bullshit. Like, Robin Williams is one of the greatest actors that we ever had. He's allowed to make bad movies. He's made bad movies. So don't tell me that this isn't a bad movie because he's dead. Like, I've heard that argument several times, and it's just like, just stop. Like, nobody's saying that Robin Williams is a bad actor, or nobody should even have that set in their mind, but this is a bad movie for him. And even though he's not the worst thing about it, just the fact that he has to play the same character we've seen done over and over and over again in a story that would have made for a much more interesting movie if you had actually gotten the real story from this guy, what this doctor was all about in real life. But no, they just make Robin Williams the funny doctor with a heart of gold, and the doctors are the ones who are the evil people, because patients need doctors. Patients don't need friends. It's just like, this movie is an insult to the world of hospitals and doctors and nurses and medical school and all this and everything about this all together. It's just like I'm at a loss for words at how bad this movie was. I was amazed at how bad this movie was, and quite frankly, I think a lot of people really need to know how bad this movie is. So, yeah, avoid this movie like the plague if you haven't seen it. And I don't care if Robin Williams is in this movie. Go watch him in much better movies. What Dreams May Come is a far superior movie that came out this year that Robin Williams was in. Yet everybody who saw that movie, nearly everybody, hated that movie. It's been a punchline ever since. But no, not this movie. No, this is a classic film because it made money, and the critics are wrong about this one. It's just like, no, the critics were actually right about this one. You guys were wrong about What Dreams May Come. And yeah, unfortunately, Robin Williams went through a dry patch during this point too, because his next couple of films were not that great, but then he would kind of rebound in 2002 with a couple of movies that he had there, kind of outside of his normal stick. So I guess in the end it actually paid off for him. But in this, yeah, it's a terrible movie. Avoid this movie like the plague. Patch Adams. So let's go ahead and try to get away from the schmaltzy stuff here, and let's look at this movie with Julia Roberts and Susan Sarandon, Stepmom.
Columbia Pictures invites you. Will you marry me?
Yeah.
To be there for the laughter.
Your kids keep on hating me. I think Isabel's safe. Yeah. She likes big teeth.
Be there for the tears.
No one asked me if I wanted a new mother.
And be there
This is not me or you. It's not them.
for each other. Stepmom. Rated PG-13. Opens everywhere December 25th.
Okay, that's the last time I'm doing that joke. Yeah, you could. It's pretty much more the same schmaltziness that was in Patch Adams, only nowhere near as bad as Patch Adams, because Patch Adams was Patch Adams was based off of a real person. This is just a Lifetime movie of the week that has way too much schmaltz with it. You have Julia Roberts, Susan Sarandon, and Ed Harris, and it follows a terminally ill woman dealing with her ex-husband's new lover who will become their child's stepmother. And this is Chris Columbus. This is the first movie he's directed since 9 months. And, yeah, needless to say, despite the fact that Julia Roberts is in it, and usually she doesn't turn in a bad performance, and neither does Susan Sarandon, it's a very manipulative film. It has a lot of the same problems that Patch Adams does, but the difference is, this isn't based off of a real person whose life story was basically turned into the Robin Williams formula. This is a film that's just something like I said, it should be the Lifetime movie of the week. It's a film that you would see on like the ABC movie of the week, a TV movie storyline, but because it has these big actors involved here, like it has to go to the big screen, and you expect so much better from a director like Chris Columbus. I mean, it's a movie that just really is not that worth it. It's just a film that just tries way too hard to hit you with the emotional punches, even though the emotional moments in here are not that great. The writing overall is mediocre, the storyline is not that great, and despite the fact that it has these top talents involved in terms of actors, they're not really doing a whole lot to give this movie the edge that it really needs to give. And sadly, the movie just falls apart on just those cheap emotional moments in there. Like, they try way too hard to be it's another Oscar bait type movie. It's a film that's trying to win Oscars and will never and didn't even come close to winning any Oscars, even though Susan Sarandon got a nomination for Best Actress for the Golden Globe Awards. But that's pretty much as close as it's gonna get. And like Patch Adams, people bought it. Made over $159 million worldwide. Was a big hit, and it was actually a remake that they made in India, I think. They actually made an Indian version of it called We Are Family that came out about 12 years later and was not a big hit whatsoever. So, but, yeah, not much more to say about that one. That is Stepmom. So, on to the next movie, and that is The Faculty. First mistake for this movie, this should not have been released on Christmas. I mean, I get it. Scream and Scream 2 were both big hits, but generally speaking, horror movies do not do well during Christmas. Just like sci-fi movies don't do well at Christmas. Like, I know after I Am Legend was a big hit, but that was as Fox decided to put the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still out towards Christmas, and that bombed because Keanu Reeves is no Will Smith. That movie, I Am Legend, became a hit at Christmas because of Will Smith. Like, Keanu Reeves is no Will Smith, despite the fact that he is of his legacy now, but that's just kind of what I'm talking about with this movie. Like, this should not have been released around Christmas. This should have been a movie that should have been released around maybe January, early February, somewhere where From Dusk Till Dawn was released, which coincidentally, this is Robert Rodriguez's first film since then, and of course Kevin Williamson wrote the script for this. And as you can tell from the plot of the film, you have this high school in Lockhart, Texas, where the students suspect the teaching staff of being aliens who are intent on making the students their victims. So it's got a mix of there are a lot of influences from different sci-fi classics, most notably Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Thing, and it's definitely noticeable here. And it's kind of a fault of the film, but there are definitely moments in the film that actually do kind of like bring the movie up to another level, to where it is kind of a fun movie. It's a film that, at the time, probably did not get the proper respect it deserves, but it got its cult following over the years, mostly because Robert Rodriguez is a good director, and he definitely shows it in here. The casting overall is pretty good. Everybody fits their characters kind of well. Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, Laura Harris, Josh Hartnett, Famke Janssen, Piper Laurie, Bebe Neuwirth, Robert Patrick, Usher, Jon Stewart, Elijah Wood. I mean, it's got a solid cast to it, and there are elements where it is kind of cheesy, but in a way it's still kind of fun at the same time. When it takes a lot when it shows its inspirations, it's like almost exposure, like it's all over the place, like it really exposes it out in the open pretty quickly, and it gets annoying a little bit, but never to the point where the movie really kind of falls apart because of it, even though the ending is a little bit kind of a cliched twist ending. Like, you don't really have a good... You look at it and you think, that's not really a great way to end this movie, honestly. Like, this is not the kind of twist I was expecting with this film. And, I don't know. I thought the movie was okay. It was a movie that I saw it. Kind of glad I did, but I have no real intention of ever going back to watching it. It's a film that, like I said, I thought it was alright. Good for a one-time watch, but nothing else after that. Mostly, I think they just put this out there because of what happened with the Scream movies. And there's a dip. If you could tell the big difference between the Scream movies and why those were successful, and this was kind of not at the time. Horror movies and sci-fi films do not do well at the box office during Christmas time. That's just something that very rarely happens. So that's The Faculty. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and we have here Mighty Joe Young. I will say this, the marketing for Mighty Joe Young was really not the best, and you can probably tell that's the reason why this movie unfortunately bombed at the box office. But this is a film based off the 1949 film of the same name, which is technically a sequel to King Kong, about a giant mountain gorilla brought to a wildlife preserve in Los Angeles by a young woman who raised him, the woman played by Charlize Theron, and the zoologist played by Bill Paxton, to protect him from the threat of poachers until one seeks Joe out in order to take his revenge. And the director of this was Ron Underwood, who gave us City Slickers. He also did a number of other movies of noteworthiness, including Tremors, Heart and Souls, very underrated film. This is after he did Speechless, which was probably his first major misfire as a film. This is probably the last decent film that he did as a director, because after this he did Pluto Nash, and then he basically just went to the TV route, and he did a bunch of movies for Freeform, NBC, and basically a lot of Christmas movies. And the movie overall actually is a lot better than I think the trailer definitely puts on. I think the effects overall are really good. The moments in there that seem kind of really cheesy in the commercials actually do work in the actual movie. I think they really struggled to sell this movie to people, and I think they already knew kind of that this was going to be a hard time to sell this film. It's not like these other Disney live action films that we talked about. We've been talking about how these movies, like these live action Disney films coming out around this time, were not the biggest hits, mostly because most of them were not great films. I mean, this isn't Meet the Deedles. This isn't something like Mr. Magoo or Rocket Man. This is a film that was definitely trying to be something more different and more unique, and actually try to do something here. And I don't think it worked all the way through, but there are still a lot of moments in this particular film that I definitely found a lot to admire about a lot in this. Like, I think the CG effects in here still held up very well. I thought the emotional moments in here held up very well. I thought Charlize Theron and Bill Paxton worked off each other very well. There's a great cast in this movie. Regina King is also in here. Naveen Andrews from Lost. David Paymer. It's a really solid film, but it definitely has a lot of flaws that make it not enough for me to say you need to see this movie. You need to go out and see this movie now. But if you want to see it, go into it knowing that the trailers are probably misleading you big time. If you do that, you actually find a lot to admire about this movie that I think a lot of people would give it credit for. I think it's a lot better than the trailers put on here. I think it is a good film, but it definitely could have been a great film. It's a film that really, I'd say watch it once. You probably will enjoy it, but it's not something where I would say it's going to be something you'll want to watch over and over again. I'm glad I saw it, but it definitely needed a little bit more of a spark to make it stand out on its own and actually be something that's worth the watch over and over again. But for a one-time watch, I thought it did its job fairly well. So that is Mighty Joe Young. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line.
Critics are calling The Thin Red Line powerful, outstanding, and astounding.
I want you to attack! I want you to attack right now!
An instant war film classic. 2 thumbs up. Visions you'll never be able to shake.
What difference you think you can make, one single man, in all this madness?
The Thin Red Line. Rated R. Limited engagements now playing. Opens everywhere January 15th.
The war film that definitely got overshadowed by Saving Private Ryan in 1998. This is Terrence Malick, who wrote and directed this film. It's the first movie he's directed since Days of Heaven, which was 20 years ago. and then after that, he'd do a couple. He did stuff like The New World about 7 years later, and then starting in 2011, he started to be a little bit more prolific as a director with stuff like The Tree of Life, To the Wonder, Night of Cups, Song to Song. Some may say some very pretentious films, at least, but The Thin Red Line, you have a story here that's basically a fictionalized version of the Battle of Mount Austin, which was part of the Guadalcanal campaign at the Pacific Theater of World War II. It portrays U.S. soldiers of C Company, 1st Battalion, 20th Century Infantry, the Regiment 25th Infantry Division, and they're played by Sean Penn, Jim Caviezel, Nick Nolte, Elias Koteas, and Ben Chaplin. The novel's title alludes to a line from Rudyard Kipling's poem Tommy, in which he calls the British foot soldiers the Thin Red Line of heroes. And you also have people like Adrian Brody, George Clooney, John Cusack, Woody Harrelson, Jared Leto, John C. Reilly, and John Travolta among the cast. There was also scenes with Bill Pullman, Lucas Haas, and Mickey Rourke that were actually cut from the movie and later showed up on the Criterion version of this. And this was a film that that took 7 months to edit and was originally 5 hours long. And basically they had to cut a lot of stuff down in this. And it's a good movie, but like I said, it got overshadowed by the far superior war film, Saving Private Ryan. I think this is a solid war film, but like I said, Saving Private Ryan is the definitive war movie. I think it is the best contemporary war film that we've had up to that point. I think it is a much better film than this film. But the performances overall, the action sequences overall are well done. And for Terrence Malick, it's probably his best overall film as a director. And it's a good war film. It definitely has a lot there that keeps you invested in what's going on. You really do believe in these performances. You do believe in the drama going on, and the cinematography is nicely done. The music overall is very well done. It's a really good war film. I would say, it's like I said, I prefer Saving Private Ryan, but this is a good close second. So that's The Thin Red Line. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Hurly Burly.
I think I took too many vitamins.
Hurly Burly is powerhouse filmmaking
I've never seen anything like it.
on Fireball.
Funerals, sex, death. I'm gonna go out and play.
He's totally without redeeming social value.
Sean Penn, Kevin Spacey, Robin Wright Penn, Chaz Palminteri, Gary Shandling, Anna Paquin, and Meg Ryan.
I know you think you know what you're saying, but you're not saying.
No, I don't know what I mean, but I know what I'm saying. Is that what you mean?
Hurly Burly, rated R, now playing.
Another movie with Sean Penn in it. Sean Penn plays a cocaine-addicted womanizing casting director who lives in the Hollywood Hills with his friend Mickey, played by Kevin Spacey, who's come to stay with him temporarily after a fallout with his wife, along with their buddies. Artie, played by Gary Shandling, and out-of-work actor Phil, played by Chaz Palminteri. Eddie, played by Penn. Mickey, again played by Spacey, live in a life of decadence and immortality, and Eddie falls in love with this woman Darlene, played by Robin Wright Penn, but she is also seeing the married Mickey. Eddie comes to question his life and purpose, while Mickey is content with the situation. Through a haze of drug and booze, the four friends inch closer to rock bottom. And other than that, this is based off of a play by David Rabe, who wrote the script for this, and considered the action of the 3-hour plus play into 2 hours, and updated the settings from the mid-1980s to the late 1990s, and really, that's all I really know about this. It also has Anna Paquin and Meg Ryan. I've never seen the film, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. The reviews for it are not that strong, so it could go either way with this one. So that's pretty much all I know about this one. That's Hurly Burly. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Another movie with an actor from the Thin Red Line in it, John Travolta, in a civil action.
This is a good case. 12 deaths over 15 years. They think it has to do with the city's drinking water.
One lawyer will discover
Somewhere out here, somebody had to have seen what happened.
the only thing more dangerous than burying the truth
There's a lot of people in my neighborhood that are dead from something.
is uncovering it.
You go back out there and you catch him in a lie.
We're 3 lawyers. They're 300. We can't afford a long, drawn-out trial.
Mortgage my house.
I have.
From the #1 electrifying bestseller,
If you're gonna knock a guy down,
Do it so he can't get up.
What I wanted was an apology for what they did to my son.
It's war.
John Travolta, Robert Duvall, John Lithgow, William H. Macy, and Kathleen Quinlan.
This isn't about money anymore. What's it about, Jen? It's about this.
A civil action, rated PG-13, starts Friday, January 8th everywhere.
So this is Steven Zazilian, who wrote Schindler's List, his second film as a director after searching for Bobby Fischer. Based off the book by Jonathan Harb, tells the true story of a court case about environmental pollution that takes place in Woburn, Massachusetts in the 1980s. The film and court case revolves around the issue of trichloroethylene, I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong on that, but it's an industrial solvent and it's contamination of a local aquifer. And a lawsuit was filed over industrial operations that appear to have caused fatal causes of leukemia and cancer, as well as a wide variety of other health problems along with the citizens of the city. Duvall, it also has Robert Duvall, who got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. You see James Gandolfini in a pre-Tony Soprano role, along with Dan Hedaya, John Lithgow, William H. Macy, Kathleen Quinlan, and Tony Shalhoub. I barely remember this film. I saw it once many years ago, and I remember thinking it was okay. I don't think it was anything too spectacular. I just thought it was another one of those Oscar baitish type movies that was trying to get the Oscar buzz on it, and it just really never got any notoriety to it. At least to me, it didn't. But like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, so I can't really say if it's held up after all these years. But one time I saw it, I thought it was okay, but it was nothing that I really wanted to go back to, honestly. But that's all I got for you on that one. That's a civil action. So on to the next movie, and that is The Swindle. So The Swindle tells the story of a pair of scam artists. One day, Betty brings in Maurice, a treasurer of a multinational company, and Maurice is due to transfer 5 million francs out of Switzerland, and Betty is convinced he plans to steal that money. On whose side is Betty, Victor's, Maurice, or only her own? And you have Isabel Huppert as Elizabeth and Betty, and Michael Surratt as Victor. That's, again, pretty much all I know about this one, because I have not seen this movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. Not much more I can say about that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, and that is The Theory of Flight.
Almost as much as he needed her. I think she needs somebody who knows what they're doing. Academy Award nominee Helena Bonham Carter and Academy Award nominee Shannon Branagh in a film the critics call funny, intelligent, and deeply poignant. The Theory of Flight.
Okay, I know I said it was done with that joke, and I didn't even have the trash can there, but yeah, we started the show with some very schmaltzy Oscar baitish type of movies, and we're ending with very schmaltzy Oscar bait type movies, because holy mother of God, this is the definition of an Oscar bait movie. I mean, you have Helena Bonham Carter playing a woman with motor neuron disease, and the film deals with the sexuality of people with disabilities. And Kenneth Branagh is in here, and would you believe this is the first film directed by Paul Greengrass in 9 years? This was the film before Paul Greengrass became the Paul Greengrass that we know him as today, because he followed us up with Bloody Sunday, and then eventually with The Bourne Supremacy, and then his contributions with the Bourne films, and after that, after this movie, his career got a whole lot better. But this is the very textbook definition of an Oscar bait movie, a film that's just begging for Oscars, begging to tug at your heartstrings with the most manipulative performances possible. It's a movie that is just your typical generic Oscar film. The only thing that's notable about this movie is the fact that this was the last film that Gene Siskel reviewed before his death on February 20th of 1999. This was the last film he reviewed on Siskel and Ebert, and he gave the film a thumbs up. Roger gave it a thumbs down, and that's probably the only notable bit of history here about this film, is that this was the last film that Gene Siskel reviewed before his untimely death. In fact, it was a couple months after this movie came out, and like I said, it just kind of falls into the same problems with most of these movies, like Patch Adams and Stepmom. It's a film that's begging for Oscars and just doesn't want to try to actually do something unique or interesting about it. It just wants the Oscars. It just wants to be that movie that wants to win Best Picture. And luckily, people looked at this and said, "You're out of your mind if you think that this is going to win any noteworthy awards." And it just kind of came and went. So not much more to say about that one. Probably the worst movie that Helena Bonham Carter and Kenneth Branagh have done. And trust me, that's saying a lot compared to some of the movies that they've done. So that's The Theory of Flight.